Hi, welcome to Midweek 5. We've been having a look at the Lord's Prayer to help us with our prayer life. All of us go through times when we struggle to pray. Most Christians, if they're honest, would say their prayer life could be better. And Jesus taught this prayer to help the disciples, so it's a really good place to begin. In Luke's version, he starts off, Father. That's how we're to address God, and how he tells us, that's how Jesus addressed God, and it's how he tells us to address God. So what does it tell us when we use this term Father? Well, he could have addressed God as friend, but we're not equals with God. He's not our mate. He could have addressed God as master, but we're not his slaves. He could have addressed God as king, but we're not his subjects. He could have addressed God as teacher, but God is more than a source of knowledge. Now, God is all of those things. He's friend, master, king, and teacher. But the word chosen is the word Father, Abba. Now, it's not a childish word like daddy, despite what you hear some claiming. There was a book came out in the 70s claiming that this meant sort of daddy. It was a child's term, but it's not. It's a word both a child or an adult would use to address their own father. Now, just a quick note on this, God is not male or female. He doesn't have gender. There's many other passages that speak of God in feminine terms. God is described as a mother and a woman. So we need to be really clear that this term Father is actually a metaphor. It describes an aspect of God. It's not the whole character of God, but part of it. It's how Jesus instructs us to address God. Now, the word in the ancient patriarchal world was one that indicated a belonging, a respect, a love, a provision, and protection. It was a term of intimacy. We belong to God's family and we know his love and care. Yes, God is holy, almighty, all powerful, God of justice and might. And all those things could be very frightening, but we can come as children, knowing we're loved and we belong. That's why the term Father is used. Now, it's really hard not to think of our own father when we use this term. And for most people, they have fathers that were both loving and flawed. Certainly the case for me. My dad is still alive and I have a good relationship with him. Some parts of my dad's character mirror that of God, but maybe some parts aren't as helpful. I don't know, for some of you might have memories of terrible fathers. We really have to resist projecting our own experience of our dad onto God. One of the dangers with this word Father is that we become casual or flippant with God. We'll talk about this next week as we look at the phrase, may your name be kept holy, or may your name be honoured. The word Father is not an invitation to approach God like, g'day Dad, how's it going? I might say that to my own dad and that would be perfectly fine. At least in Kiwi culture it would be fine, but that's not implied or suggested here. The reason this word Father is so important is that it's the starting point of how we view God. If we see God as demanding or critical or scary or distant, it's going to be difficult to pray. It's going to feel a bit like being summoned to the principal's office or conversing with someone who really has no interest in what we're saying and is always busy with other things. But if we know that we're entering conversation with someone who smiles with welcome as we enter the room, and who is interested in every part of our lives and who wants the very best for us, and who believes in us and is passionately in love with us, that totally alters how we approach God. When I was younger, my dad was probably not the best at expressing his affection to us as children. I have to say, actually, he's got much better as he's got older. But I ended up with a sense of wanting or needing to earn my father's approval. I wanted to feel good enough. The problem was that that's also how I approached God. So if I'd not met what I thought was God's standard of behaviour, which to be honest was quite often, and then my prayer life centred on guilt and shame. But if you notice, actually, the whole idea of forgiveness is not even at the front end of the prayer at all. We come into the presence of God confident because of what Jesus has done on the cross. God doesn't look at me as if when I come to him with this critical attitude. He looks at me with one of love and acceptance because he views me through the lens of Jesus Christ. How we see and approach God is the starting place for a flourishing prayer life. I found recently the song The Blessing that we sang last Sunday at church You can find it on YouTube. That song helps me understand at a heart level something of God's heart, the Father heart. The song Good Good Father is another that helps me move from my head to my heart. Maybe you can start your prayer time with one of those songs and just see how it impacts your prayer life. But my prayer would be for each one of us that we would know the Father's heart towards us. I trust that helps you as you continue to pray this week.